Surprise, I'm not talking about chaos today. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about Ogryns. What is up, everybody? Angron's calmest son here, aka Connor K 40K, and I want to do something different. So originally I was going to talk about chaos, I was going to talk about all this different stuff, but then a thought occurred to me. Warhammer has a lot of characters who have the potential to have their own spin-off stories, and you can tell the author put a lot of emphasis into this character that they created, only for us to never really see them again. And I know there are a lot of fans who casually consume lore through other YouTubers or through Reddit or such and such other various ways of getting their information about the hobby. But you're missing out. You're missing out on a lot of different characters that you may not have heard of otherwise unless you've read the book. So I'm going to do my civic duty as a worshiper of the Unholy Four, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret. There are a lot of cool characters you're missing out on, and I'm just going to kind of give you the baseline. We're going to do this little series. We're going to call it the Hidden Gems of 40K, right? That's straight off the dome. And we're going to talk about them. So to start it off, I thought about characters who I necessarily wouldn't have liked otherwise, or I probably would have only been vaguely interested in. So I was thinking about Ogryns. Ogryns are cool, and of course there's some really famous Ogryns. Off the top of my head, I can't name them, but I can name what they've done. There's the one who's like, his mom said to protect the little ones and don't worry about bullies and, fight for the emperor and all that stuff. And they're just lovable characters. They're not the smartest, but you don't need to be smart to, worship the emperor. Blessed is the mind too small for doubt, or I think that the quote goes. They're awesome characters, and they're characters I can personally really, really enjoy because they're just beautiful souls in their own funny, awful way in the series and setting that is Warhammer. So why not put you on to an Ogryn who is exceptionally rare in her own right? Yes, her. Her name is Cassia. Where can she be found? The Prophet of the Wog, Gazgul Madarach Thraka. So what's special about Cassia? What makes her unique? Well, besides being a female Ogryn who's in the party with a space wolf and an inquisitor, she's a psyker, which is already kind of unique in and of itself, considering we don't hear a lot about Ogryn psychers, also women Ogryn psychers. But the fact that she's a woman is just cool. It's not necessarily a major part of her character that makes her interesting. What makes her interesting is her psyker abilities, because when you hear her speak and talk about things, it's very clear that she's a little bit smarter than you would kind of think an average Ogryn is. She's extremely intelligent. And if I can, I'm going to see if I can find you the little excerpt right about now. So let me go find it and we'll be right back. Here's a brief introduction to Cassia and why this should sort of get you a little bit interested. So for context, we're kind of looking from the perspective right now of Brother Hendrickson, the son of Fenris, the space wolf, and he's talking about all the people who are in this little ship right now. So it's obviously the Inquisitor himself, oh my god, the little guy who was always following around Gazgul. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll find it later. But then Cassia comes in, right? Hendrickson glanced around irritably, then rose to his full height again as Cassia appeared to the cell's entrance. He still had to look up, though, as Falks was a foot taller than the Gretchen, and Hendrickson was a foot taller than her. Cassia was taller still. Her great ochre boulder of a head stooping as she squeezed her shoulders through the door. Cassia, after all, was an Ogryn. The battered canvas of her shipcoat creaked as she stood upright and as she moved towards the prisoner. It was like watching a storm system drifting in. "Bud, shaman," she rumbled, and prompting a hiss of exasperation from Hendrickson. But still, the rune priest stepped out of the way, and from there on, she does some psychic readings of, what is his name? Oh my god, I think I have it right here. Makari. So she reads Makari, they get into some squabbles, but, she already has a commanding presence, and if you read the book, I'm not going to spoil it, she goes through quite the experience of the greenskins, and she figures out what's gonna lie at the end of her journey now that she's involved with them. But she's such an interesting character because she's goofy, she's funny, she exhibits all the natural Ogryn traits, But she's just a little bit more special, right? She's a little bit more interesting. In this story about the origins of Thraka, we're seeing characters who often, otherwise you wouldn't necessarily be interested in, because most YouTubers don't cover the stories, right? They cover the events that surround the context of the story. So you're going to hear about Thraka. You're probably going to get a 2-minute summary of what Thraka is and what was going on there, but you're only going to hear about him. You're not going to hear about the characters that sort of prompted this whole conversation to exist, right? And these characters are just as important to the story as Thraka's origins are. Cassia included. She has a pretty integral role in the story for a little bit, and she also has some very impactful moments. But again, you wouldn't hear about her if you didn't read the book. So again, this may not be the longest video, but I'm encouraging you. She's super underrated, and if you are interested in orcs, you're interested in Ogryns, Space Wolves, this has some really good world building for the orcs and some really good lore just about them in general, but you also get some glimpses into Space Wolf lore, how the old rituals of Fenris work, but as well as Cassia, you get to see some Ogryn in action with some important dialogue, who takes an active role in the story and isn't necessarily used as like cannon fodder. So if that's your jam, and I've helped put you on to some game, if you will, that's awesome. And I really hope you guys enjoy this one. I have another one, but I'm not going to spoil who that is. That'll be in another week or two. But other than that, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you all